Thanks for being here. This is Truthseekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truthseekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat room during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truthseekers. Truthseekers.
Well, greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. And as you can see, some things here have finally changed. A little bit more progress. This is tonight's show will feature, I suppose, the debut of our new set. And I had hoped that the first time we used this, we'd have a live studio guest here. However, I took way too long getting this thing together and getting so many different things working that I have to go back to the people who agreed to do a live studio interview here with me in person, go back to them and sort of reschedule those things. But things are moving along here. And what I've been learning lately is that though nothing ever seems to be good enough, sometimes you have to say maybe it's not good enough, but it's good enough for right now. So we move forward with our plans here. Welcome, one and all. Glad to see so many people already showing up. Tonight, we're going to do a very special look at what I think, regardless of what you think about it, is a very special case in the history of UFOs and aliens. And that would be, of course, the Benny and Barney Hill case. Barney and Betty Hill were an American couple who really laid the foundation for so much UFO and alien stories that would come after them. They were, according to their account, abducted by extraterrestrial beings in the state of New Hampshire. And this event took place from September 19th to 20th. So today is September 19th. This, of course, occurred in 1961, making the case now 62 years old. This case became famous and came to be called the Hill abduction, but also to a lesser extent, people called it the Zeta Reticuli incident, because two ufologists, most notably, I believe, Stanton Friedman, connected the star map that Betty Hill claimed she was shown with the Zeta Reticuli star system. But of course, the star map would later be discredited. However, their story was adapted into the best-selling 1966 book called The Interrupted Journey. And of course, there was a 1975 television film called The UFO Incident. And later, there would come to be more books, more documentaries, more television special events covering the case. It is perhaps considered foundational in the history of UFOs and aliens. After all, so many things that were first mentioned or laid out as a new sort of reality were laid out in this case. We have, of course, the gray aliens, the type of aliens that would later be claimed to be abducting hundreds, perhaps thousands of people, and there would be hundreds and thousands of cases after this one. But this was really one of the first cases of so many different things. The mythology that the aliens visiting Earth, or I should say the story, I'm not sure it's mythology if it's true or not, but the story that the aliens visiting Earth and abducting people, being from the Zeta Reticuli star system, would be established with this case, and so much more. The often told tales of medical examinations and things of that nature, telepathic communication with the alien beings, and more would be laid out in this case. So this case formed a prototype of sorts for many, many cases which would come after that. All right, so we're going to begin our presentation tonight with a look at UFO alien abductions in general. And we're going to go deep into this case. So whether you believe that this case is a true and actual event, or you think it was false memories or implanted suggestions, because much of their story, after all, came from hypnotic regression. Originally, they only reported missing time. Oh, that's another one. Missing time would be established here, which would be mentioned and used as, I believe, as sort of like a plot device in many other stories of alien abduction, including, of course, other famous abduction cases like Travis Walton and Whitley Strieber's case. They would both, after the Betty and Barney Hill case, report the same strange phenomenon. It is a strange phenomenon. You just lost 12 hours of your life and you don't know what happened. In Travis Walton's case, he lost days of his life and didn't know what happened in that missing time. So we begin our journey with a look into really this foundational case. Pardon me one moment here. Just attend to some business. Forgot to tweet out that we were live. If you get a chance or you haven't already, please do follow me on Twitter at Stephen Cambion. That's the best way to keep up with our show and what we are doing here. I've been trying to tweet the shows earlier, but life gets in the way. But that's the best place to keep up with the show here and know exactly what is going on. So we begin our journey here. We can say a lot about the alien abduction phenomenon, but this case was foundational, and I believe laid the ground for so many different alien abduction phenomenon stories that would come after them. So if you're just joining us, welcome. It is the 62nd anniversary of the Betty and Barney Hill alien abduction case. Today is September 19th, and though their encounter would last more than 24 hours, apparently, 2 days, it began on September 19th, 62 years ago today. So tonight we'll be unraveling this enigmatic encounter from Betty and Barney Hill. The phenomenon of alien abduction has intrigued and baffled individuals worldwide, often sparking discussions in various fields, from psychology to a new science, some call it a science, this thing called ufology, or the study of UFOs. Tonight, we'll begin with the seminal case, of course, of Betty and Barney Hill. But I did want to touch on some other famous cases that came after the Betty and Barney Hill case, because I believe that their case was foundational and influenced many other people who would claim to have similar experiences. Some of those famous cases provided detailed accounts and similar accounts, which may shed some light on the complexities of what it is that happened to Betty and Barney Hill. The phenomenon of alien abduction is often characterized by individuals reporting encounters with extraterrestrial beings, or commonly called aliens, beings from other star systems that are somehow here visiting Earth. And while here, apparently they abduct, examine, and attempt to communicate with human beings. And there are many things that have emerged as controversial aspect of the UFO phenomenon, chief among them being, why are aliens abducting people, apparently, or performing medical experiments without people's consent, really? Tonight, we'll delve into the subject by examining the landmark case of Betty and Barney Hill, and we'll subsequently present some other famous cases to illuminate the diverse nature of these encounters. First, we get into their actual UFO sighting, because a lot of people aren't aware, but this couple did not recall their entire experience. They recalled seeing a UFO. The Hills observed a strange craft in the night sky, which appeared to be following their car with very erratic movements. They also experienced the phenomenon which would later be called lost time. They experienced a long period in their case, of missing time during their journey, unable to account for nearly 2 hours. And then, of course, we get into what would be later called an alien abduction. While under hypnosis, the Hills recounted being taken aboard a craft by short, gray-skinned beings with large eyes and receiving numerous different medical examinations and tests. They were later returned, and we hear tales of memory retrieval. They reported returning home with no recollection of the aliens or the abduction, just witnessing a UFO and the strange missing time that they experienced. That is until they underwent hypnosis therapy, during which their much more detailed account of what happened during that missing time emerged. Later, of course, we get into another famous case, which has many similarities to the Benny and Barney Hill case, and that would be the Travis Walton case, which was an alleged witnessed abduction of a man called Travis Walton, which occurred later in 1975 and is also one of the most famous and controversial accounts of alien abductions. In the case of Travis Walton, while working in a forest in Arizona, Walton and a group of colleagues reported seeing a luminous UFO hovering in close proximity to them in the forest. They were, after all, loggers. So they were in this desolate forest working on a logging contract. Walton claimed to have been struck by a blue beam of light from a craft and subsequently abducted by beings which, not coincidentally, I think, also resembled the gray aliens that Benny and Barney Hill would first describe. Travis Walton also experienced missing time because 5 days later, Walton was found disoriented and confused, unable to account for where he had been for the missing days. Travis Walton also encountered another similar part of the Benny and Barney Hill story, and that is medical examinations. He recounted being subjected to medical examinations aboard an alien spacecraft. Then, of course, there were the Allagash abductions, a group abduction in the wilderness in 1976 when four friends, Charles Fultz, Charles Rack, Jack Weiner, and James Weiner, claimed to have experienced a group abduction during their camping trip, which took place in Maine in 1976. Like the Benny and Barney Hill case, their case begins with them seeing a UFO in the sky. The group reported seeing a strange light in the night sky. Then, of course, came their abduction. They claimed to have been taken aboard a UFO, where they underwent medical examinations, much like Betty and Barney Hill. They have also, under hypnosis, all four of those individuals independently, allegedly, recalled similar details of their abduction experiences. And then, of course, the other most famous abduction case is most likely the Whitley Strieber case, a best-selling author's encounter. Whitley Strieber was a well-known author, and he shared his abduction experience in his best-selling 1987 book called Communion. Strieber recounted episodes of missing time, much like Betty and Barney Hill, unusual dreams, and, of course, encounters with strange beings, including those which closely resembled the beings that Betty and Barney Hill would earlier describe. Whitley Strieber described being taken aboard a UFO and being subjected to medical procedures, including examinations and tests, much like Betty and Barney Hill would first describe. Strieber then claimed that he was experiencing ongoing contact, and to the best of my knowledge, Whitley Strieber to this day claims that he is experiencing ongoing contact with some form of non-human intelligence. Strieber claims to have ongoing contact with these very beings throughout his life, continuing to this day. So the phenomenon of alien abduction, as exemplified by the cases of Betty and Barney Hill, Travis Walton, and the Allagash abductions, and as, of course, Whitley Strieber, those stories continue to intrigue and perplex researchers, enthusiasts, fans, and skeptics alike. These accounts, which have many similarities, but each case has its own unique details and complexities, illustrate the diverse nature of these abduction experiences, while still highlighting some of the similar things that people claim to experience. And while debates persist regarding the veracity of these claims, the enduring fascination with alien abductions underscores the profound impact these narratives have had on popular culture, psychology, and the study of unexplained phenomenon. Further research and analysis into these events and the witnesses, further interviews with the witnesses, I believe, are essential to unraveling the mystery of these strange encounters and understanding their place within the broader UFO phenomenon. If you're just joining us, we are doing a deep dive today, since it is, after all, the 19th of September, 2023, meaning it is now 62 years since the Betty and Barney Hill alien abduction event. We're going to break it all down for people already here, and we want to welcome you no matter where you are participating. If you're in the Facebook lives, you can leave comments and I will see them and perhaps share them on the screen. Of course, if you're in the YouTube chat, I see all of you chatting there. The Twitch chat as well, I see. If you're watching on Twitter live, you can, of course, comment, and we can respond to those comments or questions. The Rumble and Pilled chat, I do not see, but we can check in with you. If you are there, welcome. Glad to have you no matter where you're joining us from. So I do have some visual aids, which I always forget, and I apologize. I take the time to make them, and sometimes I get through an entire show and then realize that I didn't share the visual aids here. So here we have an artist rendition of what it is that Betty and Barney Hill would later claim they saw after their hypnotic regression. Beings, a strange circular craft, lots of light. There's always lots of light and, sort of washed out, distorted perception of reality with some of these cases, which is very, very interesting to me. Is this, the aliens have some sort of reality distortion field that alters human perception somehow? It's very strange that so many people, there is a term that another show host uses for the strange effects, and that term escapes me right now, of course. But there's some strange effects that people seem to experience. Missing time moving slowly or moving backwards or seeming to stand still. Strange gravitational effects, like someone's, I once heard an account that someone who was a Christian had a cross necklace on, and that necklace was sort of floating, rising up from their chest as if gravity had gone haywire in their immediate vicinity. Very, very interesting, strange mysteries accompany these alien encounters. And here we have a shot of the actual Betty and Barney Hill. For those unaware, I did use a still image from the 1975 movie about the Betty and Barney Hill case, which starred James Earl Jones, which is very interesting to me. Also, that film also starred, why am I getting confused here? One moment. Okay. I have two of these Facebook sessions. So, interestingly, the film starred James Earl Jones, and that film was released in 1975. And I always thought it was interesting that James Earl Jones, a classically trained actor, would be involved in this really far out space story. And just a few years later, he would become the most famous voice of science fiction in history, because of course James Earl Jones is the voice of Darth Vader. Very, very interesting. And the other part that I always found interesting is that the female lead in the UFO incident television show. It was a made-for-television movie. Um, the female lead was a woman named Estelle Parsons, who would later go on to fame playing Roseanne Barr's mother on the Roseanne Barr television show. But this here we see a shot of the actual Betty and Barney Hill, not the actors who played them in the 1975 film. This is a shot from the 1975 film, which includes some detail of the aliens. And you got to love that they really tried hard back in the day. But I thought this shot was funny because you can actually see the seam of the mask perfectly down the alien's head. But it was a low sort of, low budget made for television movie. We'll continue our journey here into this strange event. It's the 62nd anniversary today. So the Betty and Barney Hill alien abduction case unfolded in September 1961. And I believe that this case represents a watershed moment in the history of UFO encounters. Tonight, we'll be delving into the specifics of the story told by Betty and Barney Hill, from their initial account to the subsequent reception of their experience in human culture. We'll be examining the entire narrative and history of their abduction, the case's investigation, and of course, its enduring impact on society, and some would say UFO mythology, because I believe this case provides a great deal of insight into the enduring fascination with aliens, UFOs, and the unknown. The Betty and Barney Hill alien abduction case remains an enduring enigma, captivating the imaginations of both UFO enthusiasts and even the general public. Their story of an alien encounter, complete with intricate details, shaped the discourse on extraterrestrial phenomenon and significantly influenced human culture. Tonight, we're going to dissect the specifics of their narrative and explore its profound impact on our collective consciousness. So when we get into the story that they told, I have detailed notes here. In the early morning hours of September 19th, 1961, Betty and Barney Hill were driving through the White Mountains of New Hampshire when they claimed to have experienced a harrowing abduction by extraterrestrial beings. Their detailed account, which would come after hypnotic regression, revealed a sequence of events that had become a hallmark of alien abduction stories. First, the encounter began with a UFO sighting. The Hills reported seeing a strange luminous craft in the sky that followed their car, emitting peculiar lights and moving very erratically. Second, they experienced lost time, which would later become a fixture of UFO and alien abduction stories. The couple reported that they experienced a period of lost time during their journey, unable to account for hours of their drive. Then, of course, there were the alien beings, or as I like to call them, the others. It wasn't until they were placed under hypnosis that the Hills recounted being taken aboard the alien spacecraft by human-like, but very different than human beings. These entities were described as short, pale gray skin, large eyes, and a lack of distinct facial features. Betty would later say that they all looked like clones or twins. There was no distinction in facial features or differences between the beings that she saw and experienced during this event. This description of these kind of alien beings has since become an archetype in UFO lore and stories and mythology. Then, of course, came the medical examinations and tests. Both Betty and Barney Hill claimed that they were subjected to intrusive medical examinations during their abduction, including the extraction of skin and hair samples. Later, they would return home, and the Hills originally reported that they returned home, but they were very confused, disoriented, and they had this sense of missing time and a feeling of amnesia or not knowing what happened during that missing time. They claim to have had no recollection of the abduction experience and these intrusive medical tests until they underwent hypnosis therapy. So the Betty and Barney Hill case has had a profound impact on human culture and the way we perceive extraterrestrial encounters. It is, after all, the pioneer alien abduction narrative. Their account, after all, laid the foundation for the modern alien abduction narrative, setting the stage for countless similar stories that would soon follow. Of course, this case has had a huge pop culture influence because the Hill story inspired a wave of books, television movies, and documentaries, including the 1975 movie, The UFO Incident, which we are showing you a still from here, which brought their experience and the phenomenon of alien abduction to a much broader audience. And let's continue with some of these. This is a shot from the 1975 film showing some of the tests and medical examinations that were taking place, which is very much like sort of like a physical that you would get from your doctor, checking ears, nose, throat, heartbeat, pulse, but also the so-called alien beings reportedly took skin and hair samples from both Betty and Barney Hill. And here we see James Earl Jones playing the male, playing Barney Hill here. And another look at these strange alien beings. I mean, that's all you could describe them as, extraterrestrials. And if you've never seen the 1975 film, I highly recommend it, especially if you're a fan of aliens and UFOs. It's quite well done. And I think that James Earl Jones is an incredibly underrated actor. And equally, I think Estelle Parsons, who I was not familiar with until I saw this film. And then I realized that she later would play the mother of Roseanne Barr, because she seemed so familiar to me, and I couldn't understand why. I had to look up her career and found out she would later become famous for playing Roseanne Barr's very annoying mother. If you were a fan of that show, Roseanne Barr's mother was like, like nails on a chalkboard every time she made an appearance there. But the film is very well done. A little low budget, but hey, it was the 70s, man. And this is before so much pivotal science fiction, with much more incredible effects. After all, shortly after this television movie was made, Star Wars would come out and really raise the bar for the level of makeup and special effects used in films depicting aliens. Still worth seeing, and I believe that you could see this film for free on both YouTube and Tubi and other sites, though it's ad supported. But if you really want to get a sense of their story, I think that they did a really great job on it. And then, of course, there is the Betty and Barney Hill incident. There's a monument right on the road where this apparently happened, and the monument states simply, on the night of September 19th to 20th, 1961, Portsmouth, New Hampshire couple Betty and Barney Hill experienced a close encounter with an unidentified flying object and 2 hours of lost time while driving south on Route 3 near Lincoln. They filled an official Air Force Project Blue Book report of a brightly lit cigar-shaped craft the next day, but were not public with their story until it was leaked in the Boston Traveler in 1965. This was the first widely reported UFO abduction report in the United States. And isn't it interesting that there's a monument where this event apparently took place, right on the side of the road? And of course, here is a later shot of Betty Hill, and there is a bunch of different documentaries which talk about this case. One of them being Alien Abduction: The Odyssey of Betty and Barney Hill. This case has been every few years, it seemed like somebody would bring this case back to popularity. Stanton Friedman wrote a book about this case. Many others were involved in popularizing this specific case. But we'll get back to our presentation here. Have much more to share with you. So we talked about the pop culture influence that this had, but we haven't spoken about the debates about this case. And this is one of those cases that if you like to argue, there's plenty of people that will argue with you on both sides of the aisle, whether true believer or ardent skeptic. There's a great deal of debate about this case. And it generated intense debates within the scientific and UFO communities, with many skeptics questioning the validity of recovered memories and the use of hypnosis as a reliable tool for uncovering hidden memory. Then, of course, this case has had a huge impact on the UFO subculture. The Hill story contributed to the development of an entire alien and UFO subculture, fostering a community of fans, enthusiasts, and researchers dedicated to studying the extraterrestrial phenomenon, or the UFO phenomenon. So the Betty and Barney Hill alien abduction case remains a pivotal moment in the history of UFO encounters. Their narrative was at times incredibly detailed, including many details of the alien beings, what they were like, what they look like, what their attitude towards these humans was like, and of course, the medical examinations. This story, even 62 years later, continues to captivate audience and shape the way we envision extraterrestrial encounters take place. Moreover, their story's enduring legacy in books, films, and cultural discussions underscores the profound impact of personal experiences on our collective understanding of the unknown. Whether one views their account as fact or fiction, it undeniably left an indelible mark on human culture, sparking decades of curiosity and debate that persists to this day. So if you're just joining us, welcome, friends. We are diving deep tonight into the Betty and Barney Hill alien abduction case. It's the 62nd anniversary. Today, September 19th, 2023, is the 62nd anniversary of it. So I thought, I was actually going to do another show today, but I had written this for another time, and something happened and bumped this show. We have never done a deep dive into the actual Betty and Barney Hill case. I thought today might be a good day to do that. After all, it is the 62nd anniversary. The case took place from September 19th to 20th in 1961. So welcome, one and all. If you're joining us in the live chat, we'll take a moment to recognize the live chat, take a few comments and questions before we move on with tonight's presentation. I have a lot more to share. Let's go back to the visual aids here, because I have a great deal more of those to share with you as well. So this is another view of the 1975 film where Betty and Barney Hill were walked onto the alien spacecraft. Like I said, I think they did a great job on that 1975 film. For the time that they did it, it was pretty interesting. Yeah, Anthony Peterson is here. I spoke to Stanton Friedman about this case in great detail. I once saw Stanton Friedman at a university talk, says Anthony Peterson, and he struck me as someone who was genuinely trying to get at the truth, although he clearly didn't have any deficiencies in the ego department. Yeah, I loved Stanton Friedman, though. We became friendly a few years before his death. I was afraid to ask him for an interview, but somebody told me, no, he'll do it if you approach him like respectfully. He loves talking about this stuff. He would talk about this stuff 24 hours a day. So if you want him to talk about UFOs for 2 hours, just call him and ask him. And Anthony, I said, I don't. You mean just call him up? And the mutual friend that we had said, sure, here's his number, just call him up. And I called up Stanton Friedman. And I explained that I had a show and I would really, and I had watched many of his interviews and presentations, and I would really, myself and my audience would love to, do an interview with you. And he just said, sure, when do you want to do it, kid? And he always called me kid. And I miss that. I would call him up or he would call me. And sometimes he'd call me and go like, hey, what are you up to, kid? He always called me kid. I miss him. He was one of the good people in this. Now, listen, did he have an ego? Sure, but he was an incredibly intelligent man, incredibly well-read, not just on UFOs, but on, theology and religion and philosophy and many different things. He was a very smart guy. Now, did he always get it right? No, I think he got a lot of things wrong. And eventually, he was too deep in the rabbit hole, and he wanted to believe everybody that told him things, but God rest his soul. I think he was one of the good guys. I miss Stanton Friedman. Yeah. Wow, Black Flag. I'm not going to read that, but I'll let the audience read that. Rezo Factor says, didn't last 3 minutes with my mentor in a phone call. Yeah, well, yeah, people are human. Any UFO case that Stanton was involved in puts on my rather short list of good cases. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way. Luis Caetano commenting, we're talking about Stanton Friedman, who is heavily involved in this case. Luis Caetano says his commitment to the Hill case was dogmatically inclined. He ignored the fact that the Hipparchus satellite definitely debunked any chance Betty's map showed Zeta Reticuli. Yeah, but near his, in late, I think originally he did try to double down, Luis, but I talked to him about this maybe 6 months or a year, probably, or more likely 6 months before he passed away. And I think at that point he was willing to accept that he just got it wrong and that maybe it wasn't Zeta Reticuli that the so-called star map depicted as the origin point of the aliens. For those unaware, famously, Betty would claim that she asked the aliens, well, you know where I'm from. Where are you from? Where on earth are you guys from? And I believe the alien kind of communicated to her, well, can you read a star map? Do you know astronomy? And she said no. And the alien said, well, then it would be pointless for me to show you, but, I'll show you a map of where we're from in relation to your star system. And somehow she was able to recreate this or draw it. And somehow somebody matched up that it went to Zeta Reticuli, but that would later be proven completely and totally wrong. No, it didn't go to Zeta Reticuli. But by then, the idea that these gray aliens came from Zeta Reticuli would be deeply entrenched in everyone who's a fan of aliens and UFOs belief system. So Zeta Reticuli stuck. And years later, people like Bob Lazar or other people would claim that the aliens came from the Zeta Reticuli star system, which, if you talk to a planetary scientist or a cosmologist, an astronomer, about the actual Zeta Reticuli star system, it's likely not an inhabitable system because it's a binary star system, which means that most planets nearby that system would get far too much heat and light and radiation. But you never know. Life finds a way. We also want to take a moment to recognize you kind and generous benefactors. For those unaware, we read and thank every single person sending a super chat. 50,000 bees with a kind and generous. Boy, that's like a nightmare. 50,000 bees. Do you know 50,000 bees? I just had to kill a hornet's nest. I hate bees. Yeah, but thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. We have Anthony Peterson with kind and generous $2 saying the truth is out there. And we have the MVP of Super Chats, UFO John Doe. Do you have the interview with Friedman archived somewhere? Hope all is well. Keep up the good work. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this right now before I forget. I will, let me just go over. I think you can hit the search bar, but many people, I'm hearing from a lot of people that are on their phones and they get kind of upset. Like, it's impossible to find stuff. You have too many shows. And because the search bar, apparently, for some people on their phones, it doesn't work or it's not there. I don't know. But you can find it in a desktop very, very easily. And I'm going to go on over to the live chat and I'm going to pin it into the live chat. I mean the live chat on YouTube, of course. If you're somewhere else, please go to the YouTube chat. And when I get a chance after tonight's broadcast, I will add that link to my agreement. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to put that right in the live chat and we'll pin it so it'll stay there and you'll be able to get that. And thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support. And I should mention, I've been procrastinating starting to use this set because a few little things had to be done. And so our cash clown kindly and generously helped me. And I must be teaching him right because I said to him, Xavier, I got some things to finish up, but I'd really like to use that new set for the first time tonight, but I need some help. Do you want to help me get it ready? Because we have just enough time. I can finish this stuff and start using the set tonight. And he goes, sure, Dad, I'll help you. And then he looked up at me and he said, but you're going to pay me, right? So praise the cash. Praise the cash, friends. So we thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support. And we'll return to our presentation. I've got an awful lot more to share with you, including a really little known part of the Betty and Barney Hill story. And that comes from badufos.blogspot.com, which is really an interesting story that I'd never heard before. So every time you think, oh, I've seen everything about this case, you find some more. You find some more. So one moment, let's get back to our visual aids and presentation. If you're just joining us, we're doing a deep dive into the Betty and Barney Hill case. After all, this is the 62nd anniversary of their abduction event. So we'll go, I thought we saw that one already. And this, of course, is a picture of the actual Betty and Barney Hill. One of the things that I found interesting about them is that they were an interracial couple in the 60s at a time when that was not generally accepted or okay. And it says something about the country and the world in which we live, that two people of different races weren't supposed to be married or living together, but this is the thing. And it was also sort of groundbreaking that they depicted them as an interracial couple. I believe there was some discussion when they made the movie of just making it a white guy to prevent people from being upset. So stupid, but very, very interesting because they were an interracial couple at a time when that was generally frowned upon and considered, taboo. All right, so of course we've already covered that the Betty and Barney Hill abduction case, which occurred in September 1961 is one of the most famous and controversial incidents in the history of UFO encounters. But for this next section, we're going to critically examine the use of hypnosis and recovered memories in this case. After all, if not for the use of hypnosis and recovered memories in this case, all we would know is that Betty and Barney Hill saw an unidentified flying object in the sky near their vehicle. So I suppose it would be important to explore the impact of this incident on popular fiction and science fiction as well in popular culture. And of course, we're going to dive a little deeper into the controversy surrounding the alleged star map that was given to Betty Hill, and discuss the later references to Zeta Reticuli as the source for these alien beings that seem to keep visiting Earth. After all, the Betty and Barney Hill case remains a topic of intrigue and debate, especially within the UFO community, but to a lesser extent, I suppose, also in the broader public. It serves as a prime example of how personal experiences can shape the narrative of alien encounters. So we're going to scrutinize the case a little more from multiple angles, highlighting its reliance on hypnosis and recovered memories. Again, after all, if not for the use of hypnosis, we wouldn't even know this story. So one of the most contentious aspects of the Betty and Barney Hill case is the role that hypnosis played in the story. After all, these were memories that they were not at first consciously aware of, or commonly called recovered memories. Pardon me, friends. So it was under hypnosis that the Hills recalled their very detailed accounts of their alleged abduction, including the descriptions of the beings they claimed they encountered. However, it's essential to approach these recollections with skepticism. After all, I know better than most people that hypnosis can be suggestive. For those unaware, I was once a stage magician, an award-winning stage magician and mentalist. I did an entire show centered around, it was called Mind Games and Mysteries, and it was centered around mentalism tricks, like mind reading tricks, and also, to a lesser extent, I used hypnosis in that show. So I really know that hypnosis can be suggestive. And, you know, what I would say is I can't do it with every single individual. Some people are just strong-willed and they're not very suggestible. This is why you'll see a stage hypnosis sort of checking the room at the beginning of a show, doing a sort of test, okay, to see who is the most suggestible among the audience members. But I have always had my doubts about the Betty and Barney Hill case, because if I can make a group of people, you know, cluck like a chicken on a stage in just a few minutes, could I not influence them through suggestion to remember something that never actually happened? I believe I probably could, though I wouldn't do that for ethical reasons. The Hills, after all, they recalled detailed accounts of their alleged abduction. I do think that we need to approach any memories that are so-called recovered memories from hypnotic regressions with skepticism. We've all heard of some of the modern day hypnotic regressionists. The several come to mind, but the most notable would probably be Barbara Lamb. I've talked about Barbara here on the show before. I really like Barbara Lamb as a person, because I think I've mentioned this before. She looks and sounds and reminds me so much of my own grandmother that it's hard for me to be too harsh or critical of her. I really think she's a tremendous person and incredibly educated. However, I don't think it's a coincidence that almost every single person that Barbara Lamb does a hypnotic regression with suddenly remembers being abducted by aliens. I mean, what are the odds? Every person she does a regression on comes out of that experience remembering that, oh, yeah, I was abducted by aliens and they took me on the ship. It's very suspicious to me. Does that mean every single person has been abducted by aliens if you put them all through Barbara Lamb's so-called hypnotic regression? It's very problematic to me when we get into hypnotic regression. After all, again, I know how suggestible the human mind could be. I could literally make people see things that weren't there, experience things that weren't real. And, quite honestly, I did some experimentation to see how dark things could get. And I was once able to convince someone that they were drowning. But then I quickly snapped them out of the hypnotic state that they were in because it was literally scary for both of us. The use of hypnosis in UFO abduction cases has been widely criticized by many skeptics for its potential to generate completely and totally false narratives, completely and totally false memories, and confabulations of separate, disconnected events. And let's talk for a moment about the Betty and Barney Hill case's influence on popular fiction and science fiction, because after all, this case has had a huge, I think, and profound impact on popular fiction and science fiction and popular culture. After all, their descriptions of the alien beings they claim to encounter, particularly the large, dark-eyed, hairless creatures, influence subsequent depictions of extraterrestrial entities in many different formats, including literature, film, and television, and art as well. These iconic descriptions became archetypical representations of aliens, and they continue to shape our perception of extraterrestrial life and what extraterrestrial beings may look like. Next, we can take a moment to recognize the controversy surrounding the star map, because another intriguing element of the case is, after all, the alleged star map provided to Betty Hill by the beings during her abduction. The star map originally purported to identify the origin of the alien abductors as coming from the Zeta Reticuli star system, which is a binary star system. However, subsequent investigations and astronomical analyses have completely debunked the star map as coincidental and not indicative of any real celestial configuration. It's all wrong. In other words, what Betty Hill was calling a star map doesn't match up to any known thing in the universe. It just doesn't fit. It's like a piece of a puzzle that, doesn't fit the puzzle that you think it goes to. And this star map controversy, which, by the way, was hotly debated by many people for many years, it underscores the need for critical evaluation of the evidence that people put forth in UFO cases, especially when, like this event, like most alien abduction events, is largely just the experience or story of the experiencers. But unlike many, there was some extra bits, like this star map, that seemed for a time to bolster the credibility of the case. It would later fall apart. Then, of course, there is the emergence of the myth of Zeta Reticuli aliens, because this case marked the identification of Zeta Reticuli as the source of the alien beings that are visiting Earth. And this, of course, gained prominence through the Hill case and has since become an often, I would say very often, recurring theme in UFO lore, stories, and mythology. Many other alleged abductees have claimed to have encountered beings from Zeta Reticuli. contributing to its mythos within UFO culture. I think the idea that the aliens come from Zeta Reticuli, like many facets of this case, it's really essential that we approach these claims with skepticism. After all, there is absolutely no scientific evidence, since the star map has been completely debunked, to support the notion that these extraterrestrial beings that are visiting Earth are actually from the Zeta Reticuli star system. And of course, no discussion of this case would be complete without some recognition for the cultural impact. I believe this case has had huge cultural impact. So many other stories had similar elements, or I believe may have taken elements from this Betty and Barney Hill abduction case. So the case, regardless of whether you believe it is true or just the imaginings of people under hypnosis that may be completely and totally fictitious or false memories, regardless of what you think of the case, it has left an indelible mark on human society. It has inspired numerous books, televisions, movies, documentaries, including the 1975 TV movie, The UFO Incident, which some would call an iconic movie. This case's historical and cultural impact extends far beyond the UFO community, however, as it played a huge role, in my view, in shaping public perceptions of alien encounters and influencing subsequent works of fiction and nonfiction exploring the topic. One moment here. I'm sorry about that. Again, I forget about the visual aids, so bear with me. I have a few more to share with you. Now, we should also, before we conclude our presentation and discussion of this case, realize that Betty Hill made a career out of this case and her experience. Now, I'm not saying that that is either good or bad, but we should recognize that Betty Hill was always selling something. This is her A Common Sense Approach to UFOs by Betty Hill book, a sort of low-budget, self-published book. I have this book, and it's spiral bound, I believe, I didn't get it from Betty Hill. I bought it on eBay, but somebody got it from Betty Hill, because for many years she sold this book. For additional copies, it says at the bottom here, Betty Hill, P.O. Box 55, Greenland, New Hampshire, 03840. Price is at, I think it says $15.95 plus shipping and handling of $3. So it was $19 to send off to her and get her book. And the book on the front cover says 30 years of research in the field of UFOs and abductions. So this experience, I mean, there's two ways to look at this. The first way to look at it is that Betty Hill was a profiteer, because she was always selling things and looking for deals to talk about her story, and subsequently always looking for publicity. So you can look through archives, especially in New Hampshire, and there are a huge amount of newspaper articles. Like every time there was an anniversary, they would write another article about the story, and Betty Hill would chime in with something perhaps to add to the story. But I will say that it appears to me, just as an observer of a lot of the material surrounding this case, that her story did stay consistent, more or less very consistent through the years. Some people would take that to mean that it must be true then, because how do you tell the same story for 50 years and not change small detail? I don't know what to think about that. So the two ways to think about her situation is that she was just all chips in, trying to make money off of her story and profit for many, many years. However, the other way to look at it is to be perhaps fairer to her. Because after all, if you had experienced an experience like she claimed to experience, it would certainly be life-changing. So maybe that experience was so life-altering and changed her so much that she dedicated a great deal of her time and life to studying aliens and UFOs after her encounter. The jury, I think, is still out on whether the case is real or not, because this story, like many, almost all the alien abduction stories, rests on whether you believe the person telling the story or not. And there is a place that has this exhibit, and we see a bust of the alien creatures that Betty and Barney Hill described that was created under her direction. A drawing, an artist's depiction of the aliens that she claimed to have encountered. I believe that's a picture of the original abduction site, like she's on the road showing where they were abducted. And of course, the dress that she was wearing when she experienced the aliens. So people have such a reverence for this case that there are literally like exhibits about this case. And I think that's very interesting. And of course, we're back to where we started. This is the depiction of what they claim they saw after the hypnotic regression. I have a little more to share with you about this historic case. So the Betty and Barney Hill alien abduction case, I believe it's a fascinating and controversial chapter in the annals of UFO encounters. However, the use of hypnosis and recovered memories and the debunking of the alleged star map, and of course the emergence of Zeta Reticuli as a seemingly never-ending recurring theme and plot device in UFO lore, gives me a great deal of doubts. But I still sort of struggle because there's a great lot of details about this case and nuance that you need to be aware of in really understanding this case. But, in conclusion, I would say that this case has had an incredibly enduring influence on popular culture, especially on the UFO and alien fan community. This really highlights the power of personal experiences to shape our collective imagination. So the case has left an indelible mark on the way we perceive and depict extraterrestrial encounters. I, for one, have sort of digested over the years slowly. I've never been intensely interested in just this case enough to like gather all the books, all the documentaries, all the available material, read all the blog. But this case is second only perhaps to the Roswell case as far as the amount of material that you can get. If you have a real and genuine interest in this case, I encourage you, go out there and look. There is a ton of material on this case. So the final thing that I wanted to share with you is from, one second. Let me get this queued. I lost my place already. So Betty Hill did a little known event at the Indian Head Resort, which is, according to this blog, just a stone's throw away from the spot where Betty and Barney allegedly saw the UFO cross the road and hover right in front of their car. She did a special event about this, and this is from the blog Bad UFOs. Let's share my screen here. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public. As with all the material that we share here, we'll be discussing and critiquing it. So this article is called Betty Hill's Last Hurrah, a secret UFO symposium in New Hampshire. And this article is a reprint from their Psychic Vibrations column. This came from the Skeptical Inquirer. One of the most curious events to come out of the great internet stock bubble was the so-called Encounters at Indian Head project, where the very existence has been kept unknown to the public until just now. And this was originally written in 2007. The symposium was prepared under a shroud of secrecy that was amazingly effective given the decades-long inability of most top ufologists to behave responsibly about anything. Organized by the late Carl Flock, author of Roswell, Inconvenient Facts, and The Will to Believe, and the British Fortean author Peter Brooksmith. The event was funded by Joe Firmage. Isn't that interesting? Joe Firmage, you may be aware, is the person that was involved in some sort of anti-gravity scam with the current owner of Skinwalker Ranch. If memory serves me correct, I believe so. That would be Joe Firmage. The Silicon Valley then multimillionaire who seems determined to do whatever it takes to bring the public into an even higher state of extraterrestrial awareness. And here we have a shot of Betty chatting with Eddie Ballard and Hillary Evans. On the right is Junior. And that was the alien, the sculpt of the alien being that we showed you earlier by Marjorie Fish. In September of 2000, I traveled from California to New Hampshire to participate in the secret stealth UFO symposium. The subject of the alleged 1961 UFO abduction of Betty and Barney Hill, the first such incident reported in the U.S., made famous by John Fuller's 1966 book, The Interrupted Journey. Then, even more so, by the 1975 NBC TV movie, The UFO Incident. Firmage was covering all of our expenses and even paid us for the rights to the papers we were writing, which would be published as a book. The purpose of the symposium was simply to find out what really happened to Betty and Barney Hill. The plan was that nobody would find out about even the existence of the symposium until the book containing its published proceedings appeared out of the blue, presumably creating a sensation. Yeah, it didn't really create a sensation, but the symposium came off exactly as planned, a tribute to the skills of the late Carl Flock. And here we see Marzello Truzzi, Carl Flock, Greg Sandow, and Kathleen Martin. The event was held at Indian Head Resort, just a stone's throw from the spot where Betty and Barney allegedly saw the UFO cross the road and hover right in front of their car. Oh, 1 second. I always forget. Oh, no, I do have it big. Okay. I apologize. One second. Okay, let's get back to this. I apologize. Distracted by a Facebook message here. And for those unaware, if you want to send me a message, it's usually a good idea to check if I'm live and if it's something unimportant, and it usually is. Please wait till after my live broadcast. That rule does not apply to my wife, however, who messages me whenever she wants, as well she should. Okay, 1 second here. I lost my place. We'll just continue here. The pre-symposium secrecy ensured that we would not be troubled by the press, the curious, or by certain ufologists well known for being pushy and obnoxious. So this was like a secret event. However, the insistence on the non-disclosure agreement for post-event secrecy was more difficult to understand. In January 2001, Flock announced the suspension of the Indian Head project to its participants. The ongoing internet stock collapse undoubtedly cut into Firmage's discretionary spending with the once high-flying company he founded at US Web, later merged with CKS in March 1st, now bankrupt and liquidated. Still, Firmage paid every cent promised to the participants. With Carl's death on June 5th, 2006, I presumed that the project was defunct and that the non-disclosure requirement might last indefinitely. But Carl's widow, Mary Martinet, completed the editing, and the result is the volume Encounters at Indian Head, published by Anonymous Books. So there's an additional book. And this is funny. Carl Flock gave Betty Hill this T-shirt, and of course it says, "I was abducted by aliens, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt." So Betty at least had a sense of humor about her experience. The grand dame of ufology, the late Betty Hill herself, was present to guide us through a reenactment of the entire abduction scenario, assisted by her niece, Kathy Marden, who knew the story almost as well as Betty did. I'd met Betty several times before. She regaled us with stories about her literally hundreds of UFO sightings occurring after her initial UFO abduction. Yeah, so for those unaware, after her initial abduction experience, she claimed that she was having what most people would call ongoing contact, seeing UFOs quite often. She claims that she organized an entire invisible college of scientists from top laboratories who went out with her to observe and study these UFOs, who gathered reams of documentation and data on the UFOs, then apparently flushed it all down the toilet, as it was their intention to merely study the UFOs and not publish anything about them. Several of the more naive participants spoke of how listening to Miss Hill had made it more difficult for them to accept the reality of her accounts, as if Mrs. Hill's wild stories had not been well known in ufology for at least 25 years. It was the way she told of greeting extraterrestrials with the jovial "hi guys" that stuck in the throat of several of the participants. Not a single participant in the symposium was willing to describe the Betty Hill we heard firsthand as a credible witness. Nonetheless, a number of them were still inclined to accept her story of alien abduction, including Carl Flock. The organizers had widely chosen to send Betty Hill away before we began the actual discussions, as they realized it would be impossible for us to objectively discuss the mental state of a kindly, it says here, but delusional old lady who is sitting in our midst. Most of the symposium participants were well known in the UFO and Fortean worlds. Peter Brooksmith of Fortean Times Magazine, clearly the junior partner as co-organizer, showed himself to be a no-nonsense fellow who also took the partying aspect of the conference very seriously. The good times quaffing with Peter Carl and Carl's wife Mary were memorable. Another Brit in attendance was Hilary Evans, whose writings sometimes seemed to me to be a bit woozy, but who in person seemed sensible enough. Two participants were present only virtually: Walter N. Webb, who began a first-hand investigation of the Hill case a month after it occurred in 1961, and also Martin Kottmeyer, who writes amazingly perceptive papers without ever leaving his farm in central Illinois, participated from a distance. And here we see some of the participants of this symposium. And they took a field trip to the close encounter site. Here's the actual road in which it took place. In addition to the conference sessions, we took a field trip. First, we took a short drive to where the UFO close encounter allegedly occurred, just south of the hotel. According to Betty, the close encounter site is on the east side of Route 3, just north of the present Route 93 freeway exchange. She showed us where Barney left the car in the middle of the road with the engine running, while he grabbed binoculars from the trunk to get a good look at the aliens. Betty also guided us to the alleged capture site, a small sandy clearing in the woods just off Millbrook Road, which goes off New Hampshire State Route 175 to the east near Thornton. However, Barney and Betty Hill much earlier had indicated a capture site in a different location. So they got the location wrong. GPS trekkers will want to know that the capture site Betty took us to was 43 degrees 54.529 north, 71 degrees 39.852 west, elevation 662 feet. One driver, seeing the small crowd in the woods, stopped to ask us if there was a moose on the loose. Tourists often travel these back roads seeking moose encounters. I replied no, but didn't have the inclination to explain that we were chasing UFOs. Somebody else did, and the driver sped away. So that's interesting. You can learn a lot about a UFO case by visiting the site that you can't learn by reading. Driving from the close encounter site to the capture site, I was surprised to see how many quaint little New England towns lie between them. While driving frantically, allegedly being pursued by a UFO at close range, the Hills must have driven through the towns of North Woodstock, then Woodstock, West Thornton, and then Thornton. The speed limit in and around these towns is 30 miles per hour. Even granting that these sleepy little towns, which look like they've come out of a Norman Rockwell portraits of New England life, would be quiet around midnight, it seems impossible that nobody at all would have noticed a car madly speeding down Route 3, screeching around corners, running stop signs and traffic signals with a low-level UFO in close pursuit. This is related to another great puzzle, to wit. Why is it that we never receive reports of UFOs coming in menacingly close, but following someone else's car? We even had an evening screening of relevant science fiction films, including the very episode of Outer Limits that is suggested by Kottmeyer to have inspired Barney Hill's description of the aliens' wraparound eyes. There was films saying nothing. He spent much of his time during the symposium sessions glued to the phone in the hotel lobby, no doubt negotiating major business deals back in Silicon Valley. His participation was slight. I did have a chance to speak with him for a few minutes during the first evening session. He confidently expounded about how one dissident physicist or another had come up with a new theory showing that it's possible to do things that UFOs allegedly do: travel faster than light, defy gravity, etc. For him, this settled the matter. Such things were possible, and we should drop our present-day prejudices. He seemed not to appreciate the objection that the great majority of physicists were unconvinced by unsupported speculative theories, or else he seemed not to care. Firmage is an impressive dynamic speaker, but not such a good listener. So that's interesting, Joe Firmage, getting down to business. Yeah, and I'm not going to read this entire thing. I will. It goes on for quite a while. Well, not much longer, but you get the gist of it. So there was a secret UFO conference all surrounding this exact case, and that was used. The book contained contributions from a great many UFO writers, researchers, and authors that were all in attendance at this secret UFO conference run by Joe Firmage, who would later essentially, I believe, be called a scam artist by Brandon Fugel of Skinwalker Ranch fame. He was working on some kind of anti-gravity device. And we want to take a moment to thank Sandy Smith. We missed yours. I apologize. With a kind and generous $5 super chat. And thanks also for being a member. Says, look into the Mojave incident. It is different from other alien encounters. Might be worth a show. I already have, and I have a folder of the Mojave incident materials. And that's on my board here, actually, to do a show on the Mojave incident. But thank you for two things. Well, three things. Suggesting a case to me to look into for a show, always helpful, and for being a member, and for your kindness, generosity, and support with a $5 super chat. We thank all of you. For those unaware, we read every single one, and we appreciate all of you. And this one's for all of you, including you, Sandy Smith, and all you members and Patreon supporters. Thank you all for helping us to praise the cash. All right. Interesting. Well, we thank all of you. Let me get back to the live chat here. I have more that I could share, but I think that we've really covered what we can here. So we'll be taking comments and questions from the live chat. I'm going to try to keep my personal opinion about what I believe about some of these cases. By the way, this is going to be an ongoing series. We're going to call it the UFO Case Files. I'm going to try to keep my opinion about what I believe, not to myself, but I just don't want to be so forceful with, hey, this is what happened. Because quite honestly, some of these stories are too mysterious to just draw a conclusion from. And Jester is here. Welcome, Jester X, and thank you, Sandy. So what we're left with the Betty and Barney Hill case is really problematic for me, because there's a lack of physical evidence. However, the people involved, the original witnesses, both Betty and Barney, seem to be completely and totally 100% convinced that this is what happened to them. And that's hard to discount totally. And it's also really not my place to tell, to call them a liar without evidence of that. But this case, like many, is tantalizing. Could it be proof of alien visitation on Earth? Sure, if this really happened to these people. Or could it be, some sort of dream or imagined event, because these memories were recovered through hypnotic regression. Troll. Thank you for three things. Being a member, a kind and generous $5 super chat, and a laugh. Says, hey, Steven, did you hear Goofon broke his leg raking up leaves? He fell out of the tree. Well, that did make me laugh. He is that dumb. And we thank you, Troll, for being a longtime show supporter, being a member, and giving me, putting a smile on my face. Thanks, and thank you for helping us to praise the cash. Praise the cash. Yeah, he's more than dumb enough to rake leaves inside a tree. Yes. So, this case, like many, is tantalizing to me. Alien abduction stories are tantalizing to me. And by the way, I used to shy away from so-called experiencers. I didn't even want to talk to them. Like, if all you got is a story and no evidence, I don't care. I don't really care, because you could be making it up. You could be just, attention-seeking, fame-seeking, money-seeking, or just be a wackadoo. I didn't want to talk to any experiencers. And then I changed my mind, and I have spoken to many different people now, and some to great length, that claim that they were abducted by aliens. It's the only way that you could say it. Taken aboard a spacecraft, had procedures done to them, much like this case. So regardless of whether you believe that these people are telling the truth, could they all be lying? Thousands of people recounting very similar experiences. And I know, and I've said it here before, people recounting similar experience is not evidence of all the stories being true, because many different people are telling similar stories, but it is kind of strange. And the alien abduction is a strange phenomenon, because, there's some possibilities here. What if it is just some part of our own psyches that make us see these things? And look up the God helmet while you're at it, if you're really interested in alien abductions, because scientists created something called the God helmet that uses, essentially uses magnetic waves to influence the brain. And people experience something very similar to an alien abduction while under the influence of this God helmet. They feel like they're being observed. They experience some sort of entities. And what about DMT trips? After all, during DMT experiences, people recount very similar experiences to this. They often report encounters with intelligent otherworldly beings, much like an abduction experience. Pardon me, having a terrible tickle in my throat. And I hate when that happens during a live show. It's like having an itch you can't scratch. So, friends, we're going to take a short break here with a musical guest. And then we'll do the begging bumpers, reminding you we're a viewer-supported show. And then And then, friends, I'll return and we'll have a discussion here. So I'll be taking your comments and questions, and you don't have to keep it just to the Betty and Barney Hill case. You can, after all, ask any question, offer any comment, and we'll share it on the screen. We'll talk about it. But let me know comments and questions for me. Please put them in all capital letters. What do you think? Do you think these people really experienced abduction from beings from another world? Is this imagined or dreamed up during hypnosis? Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll be right back to take those. We'll be sharing with you our musical guest, Bong, with their great song, Destroy All Humans. We'll be right back, friends.
Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon And for as little as $1 a month, you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truth Seekers. Thank you for your generosity and support. Truth Seekers is a viewer-supported show. Now there's a great way to support these broadcasts and show your support. Please be sure and check out our merchandise store. Links to our 2 merchandise online stores are in the links to this video or podcast. The Amazon storefront ships super quickly in the United States, Great Britain, and many more places. Amazon may not ship to your country or location. If that's the case, hit our second merchandise link in the description and visit our Redbubble storefront. Merchandise from our Redbubble storefront ships worldwide, but may take longer than Amazon. We've got a great deal of super high quality merchandise for you to choose from, including t-shirts, phone cases, sweatshirts, and even pillows. The feedback from our products have been overwhelmingly great. Quality products and fast shipping. People all over the world are buying some merchandise and showing their support of the show. Praise the cash! Praise the cash! Praise the cash! We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, who are buying some merchandise and helping us to continue this journey.
Welcome to Pill.net. We aren't just another social media platform. We are the home of free speech. Pill.net offers people a place to share their thoughts, ideas, and content without the threat of censorship. With live streaming, uploaded content, social media posting, and more, Pill.net goes the extra mile by introducing innovative features like mobile push notifications that keep you connected without relying on big tech app stores. These notifications allow creators to instantly alert their audience when they're live or have posted new content, ensuring that your message reaches the right audience at the right time. Plus, with monetization available from day one, you can turn your passion into earnings right from the get-go. Donations and subscription options make it easier than ever to earn income with your content. And it doesn't stop there. Pill.net is constantly evolving to meet your needs. Our updated direct messaging system makes it easier than ever for content creators to engage with people privately. Anyone can also go start their own group chats with friends. Pill.net is more than just a platform. It's a lively community where everyone's voice counts. Make your account today and let our team welcome you to Pill.net. Free speech lives here.
Truthseekers, seeking the truth. A truth so bold it's hard to hold. Truthseekers, truthseekers, yeah. Praise the cash, praise the cash.
Okay, greetings and salutations, friends. We're back. We'll be taking some comments from the live chats as we check in with all of them. And B. Baker is here reminding everybody to hit like, subscribe, and share, and that the show is not over. So we'll be taking comments and questions. Please put them in all capital letters for me. What do you guys think about this case? I'm curious to see. Did you believe that this couple was actually abducted by aliens, or do you believe that these memories are false memories that may have been implanted by the hypnotherapist somehow? Let me know what you think in the comments. All capital letters. It really does help. Roger Ramjet says, I would like to donate to the show. Well, there's several different ways to do that. We haven't said it in a long time, but if you happen to have a Amazon Prime account, you can throw us a couple of bucks and it won't cost you anything, because included with your Amazon Prime account is the ability to give a few dollars every month to a Twitch streamer. So somebody can share with you our Twitch address, the link to our Twitch account. You can do it that way. You can send a PayPal, and instructions on how to do that are in the description of the video. You can join our Patreon, become a channel member. There's Super Chat. That's the money button down there in the YouTube live chat. Just hit that. If you haven't already, you might have to attach a credit card to your YouTube account. But after that, you can throw money at us all that you want. And if you heard a big crash, that would be one of my two boys jumping off of something above me. And thank you, Roger Ramjet, for the good intention. We're a viewer-supported show, and we're able to do this because of the kindness, generosity, and support of people like you. And I saw some comments here. Lisa is here. Lisa Savoy says, my experiences I remember without hypnosis. People tell me that's rare. Mostly people only remember with hypnosis. I find that interesting. I find that interesting as well. William Runner says, I got my t-shirt today. Well, be sure that you send me a photo. All you people buying t-shirts, if you buy a t-shirt, send me a photo of you wearing the t-shirt. And we're going to make a video just thanking all you people for throwing a couple of bucks our way, buying a shirt or a sweatshirt. Or somebody sent me a picture of the couch, and they bought a bunch of Truthseekers pillows, and they're on the couch. And I'm going to have to do that over here for 2 chairs. And for those that remember, when I first developed this set, we had this big black leather couch. And I got so many comments that it looked like the casting couch. For those unaware, there is a pornographic movies called The Casting Couch. And I didn't want to be associated with that. And I looked at the casting couch just to check what their couch, it looked like the exact same couch. We had a casting couch here on the set. And also, that couch is huge. It could fit 4 people, and we had the couch and these 2 chairs, which would mean 4. I could take 6 guests at once. I never say never, but I highly doubt that we're going to have 6 guests at once. So, and there's a limited amount of space here. So we removed the casting couch. Maybe I'll use that with my wife, a little role play. Who knows? But we got rid of the casting couch, so it looks a little more classy without a casting couch right in front of me here. And I didn't want to give people the wrong idea about what happens here. And thank you, William Runner, for purchasing a t-shirt. I really appreciate it. And B. Baker reminding everybody, we have multiple methods to donate in the about description for this video, or if you hit the $ on your screen. Yeah. Make it rain up in here, right? B. Baker says, the Hills met with military and Air Force people in the months before the supposed abduction. Very suspect, right? Any chance of doing a case on the Ariel and Westfall schools UFO incidents, a fresh take? Well, we did cover the Ariel school. We have never, I don't believe we've covered the Westfall schools UFO incidents, but I'll put it on the board. Listen, just so people are aware, we do try to aim to please. I realized a long time ago that if you solely focus, and let's be clear, Adam Motor, this is a form of entertainment. We're entertaining you here. And I learned a long time ago, being an entertainer, that you got to give the audience what they want. What I want is irrelevant. So we do try to recognize, if there is something that people want to see, I have a list, and I'll certainly add that to the list, Adam Motor. And generally what I do is I go into that list when I have a board and a calendar that I try to plot out. We'll do this show here, this show here. Now, just so everybody's aware, we try to be topical here. So quite often there's something that happens and everybody's talking about it, and we cover it and give our take of what's going on. But there's always weeks like this one. There's nothing really happening. So it's good to have those shows sort of developed and pre-produced so that I have material to share and I can speak intelligently and guide you through that case. And certainly those two would fall into that category. I'll put them on the list for you. Thank you, Adam Motor, for the suggestion. So I'm sifting through here for comments and questions. B. Baker reminding someone, it's not cool to laugh at people during discussion, Ryan. Be respectful. Yeah, we have one rule in the chat. Treat others how you would prefer to be treated yourself. Randy says, which UFO story is more plausible, Allagash or Travis Walton? I don't know. I wouldn't even want to pick one of those out of those two. Which is more plausible? I don't know. I think the Travis Walton case has a tremendous amount of problems because those guys were looking for money from the very beginning of the story, and that makes me very suspicious. And Travis Walton has made a full-time career of going to UFO conventions and retelling his. Imagine how many times Travis Walton has had to tell that story, right? But those speaking fees are pretty lucrative. I hear a couple $1,000s you could get for one appearance. So maybe he doesn't mind so much telling the same story over and over and over again. And by the way, I just want to thank and recognize the viewer who sent this to me. This is my little alien friend. And there's a dino beaver in front of my monitor as well. If you can see that. I got a bunch more stuff that we'll be sort of adding to the set. I didn't want the set to get too cluttered with junk. I wanted to keep it simple. And just so everybody's aware, I have a great deal more work to do here. I need another rug for under my desk here. And I'm most likely going to be moving this monitor over to the side or something, because if I'm having guests right in front of me, it's kind of rude to be sitting with a screen between us. I want a little bit more, make it a little bit more of a natural, just two people sitting and having a conversation. Who knows? Or maybe I'll just sit there across from the guest. We still have cameras to wire. We only have the 2 right now. But I have many more cameras to wire. I'm going to be working on this for quite a while. And I apologize that it has taken so long to get the new set done. But anybody who has a big family and children will understand when I tell you that this place was floor to ceiling with families. This whole area was just filled floor to ceiling with stuff. And I still have a great deal of stuff on the other side. So this is basically 2 stalls here. One stall is the set that we'll film on, and the other side here is going to be, pre-production office area, the video editing rigs and the music making rigs and whatever other fun stuff that we could, tools to have to produce the show. Rain Dimensions is here and says, if the Hills did meet the military people prior to the abduction, what do you guys think that implies? Genuinely curious because I'm trying to piece it together. Patty Wilhelm says, love the Dino Beaver. Yeah, I don't know if it's over here. Oh no, it's over here. I'll show you guys. This is my Dino Beaver, and it was made for us by a viewer. By the way, thank them very much. I've got my own Dino Beaver, man. What other show has their own Dino? Well, Stephen Greenstreet has a very good Dino Beaver animation. And I made fun of him. Like, did you have to go to the New York Post and tell them that you need an animator to make a Dino Beaver? And what was that like? You need a what? An animation of what? A Dino Beaver. Local 556 is here and says, I believe the Betty and Barney Hill stories are false memories. Betty liked attention and created a fantasy, forced Barney into it. I don't buy any of it. I don't think they even believed it. Local 556. There is an audio recording of Betty and Barney Hill's hypnotic regression. And I really, for a long time, doubted them. I said, they just, these are just imaginings or fantasies that are taking place under hypnotic state and perhaps false memories. But if you listen to the terror in their voices during these hypnotic regressions, it might make you think twice. This one's in my gray basket. I'll be very honest with everybody. I don't know if it was true or not. And the problem with this story, like in a lot of abduction stories, is that there is no accompanying evidence. There was for a while, the star map and other thing, but that got blown apart. So really what we're left with, as in all, I believe, or most alien abduction stories, you get the story and you don't get evidence. So if you believe the story is true or not, it really boils down to the credibility of the person telling the story and how believable they are. And quite honestly, I have had lengthy conversations with people who claim to be abducted by aliens, and some of them I found completely unbelievable. I just didn't find them credible for whatever reason. Call it gut feeling, call it, some of them were very clearly attention seeking. Like I had one that just kept constantly bothering me to come on the show and tell their story. And I said, well, tell me a little bit about your story first. And they're like, no, I have to do it on the show. And I'm like, well, you're paying attention here then. This isn't about a genuine experience that you want to share. This is about you wanting to get on a show. And by the way, not that not to getting on this show is a big honor, right? I wouldn't put it on a resume. But, and then others that I have spoken to, I found extremely, extremely credible, believable, and honest about their experience. And they weren't, it just comes down to belief then. Whether a story is true or not really centers on whether your belief. If you believe them, the story is true. If you don't believe them, then the story is fake to you. And each person will have their own sort of takeaway from each of these. Jester X says, Dino Beaver, can we call him Corey? No, definitely not. Buzzbomb is here. Buzzbomb 7445 says, yeah, because the military-industrial complex would benefit from the narrative of an outside threat, getting it into the collective consciousness. Yeah, one theory about the Betty and Barney Hill case is that it was a MyLab, or some government program where they pretended to be aliens and abduct people with fake flying saucers or some kind of back-engineered craft, or you get into the weeds with that kind of stuff though. Um, have you covered Project Bluebeam? Seems to be an ever-growing conspiracy. No, I haven't covered it, and that's one of those things that is on my list. And for those unaware, I was a stage magician and did magic shows for some time, and I have some projected. Let's just call. I'd say calling them holograms is a stretch, but really it comes down to technicalities, because what is a hologram? To me, a hologram is three-dimensional, but some of the effects that I created aren't exactly three-dimensional, but they appear to be. And I'm telling you, I have some projected magic effects that will blow your mind. So what I plan to do, Rain Dimensions, is cover Project Bluebeam, but I have to sort of dig those old machinery and the materials for them out of storage and get them working again so I can film them. I have some, like I have a Ghost Bride, sort of like the Disney Haunted Mansion Ghost Bride. I have a crawling ghost effect that crawls through fog. It just looks incredible. And what I want to do, Rain Dimensions, is get those things out of storage and film them. So thanks for reminding me. I'll put that on my to-do list, because I'd like to be able to display how convincing some of these things can be. Which, and I don't have the government's budget. So is Bluebeam a real thing? It depends on who you ask. There's certainly some evidence that they have experimented with different things. And a lot of people weren't aware. One of the other things I want to cover is Jasper Mescaline, the so-called World War II magician. A lot of people don't know this, but during World War II, the English employed a famous stage magician, and he worked for the government, and he was able to convince the Nazis that whole cities were somewhere else. So the use of deception and magic tricks is a lot more prevalent in history than people might imagine. There's a famous book called Jasper Mescaline, The War Magician, I think it's called. It's just an incredible read. Now, there's some embellishments in there I find out later. It's a magician. He's melodramatic. He's gonna exaggerate his story a little bit, but it is true that this magician during World War II was able to fool the Nazis, and they were bombing the wrong place. So he would set up a bunch of lights and make it appear that the city was several miles away from where it is. And then when the German bombers would come, they would black out the city and turn on the lights in the forest next to the city. And all the bombs dropped in the forest next to the city, not on the city. So it was a tremendous success. That's a show that I have planned for quite some time now. We'll get to that one eventually. If you have any suggestions for shows, there's a great way to contact me, and that would be to email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com. I try to reply to everyone, but some people do send me stuff that's like, please don't send me a 10-page letter, because I try to read every message that we get, but some of you guys make it difficult to do that. And also here is our Twitch link. It's twitch.tv/truthseekershow. I mentioned some time ago you can become a subscriber on Twitch. If you have an Amazon Prime account, it won't cost you anything. It's include it with your Amazon Prime account. 1 second here. I was trying to find my it's truthseekershow@gmail.com. I have a button for that somewhere here. Oh, here we go. That's my email, truthseekershow@gmail.com. Be happy to hear suggestions for future shows. And by the way, I'm hopeful now that we're on this new set that I'll contact back some of the people that are local to me that agreed to come here for in-person interviews. I think that's going to be a great new addition to our show here. And we're also working on a new project called Team Truthseekers Investigates. And boy, I can't wait to bring you the story that we're developing for the first part of that series, because it is the big. Let me just say this. We are investigating. I've got myself and two other really talented researchers and investigators or the second just kind of signed on today, which I'm excited about. We're investigating what is the biggest. I don't want to give anybody in too much hints. What is perhaps the biggest new age guru scam I've ever seen in my entire life. It is huge. It's worldwide. It involves some famous people that you probably have heard of. And it is a complete and total absolute scam. And these scammers are running wild with it, and they're getting bolder and bolder. And we have been very slowly investigating this story. I dug into this story a while ago. I got sidetracked. I got back on it due to the fact of finding like an incredible source that knows the inside baseball of this entire new age scam and how it's put together and who the players are and how this is working and how they're scamming people. We're doing some undercover investigation. This Team Truthseekers Investigate series is going to be incredible. Can't wait to bring it to you. Yes, Patty Wilhelm says holographic images can fool people easily. I believe that, right? Eyes larger than ours, not the typical grays, and pupils. Yeah, the Betty and Barney Hill aliens were somewhat different than the typical gray aliens with the black wraparound eyes, almond-shaped eyes, and all that stuff. Can we call the beaver George? Well, let's do it. The beaver is George from henceforth. Thank you, Ganja73. I bet the Luftwaffe was pissed off about all the wasted bombs. Yeah, and you may have seen also that I believe it was Jasper Mescaline who developed like inflatable tanks and things like that. So before D-Day, they would get all these inflatable tanks and they would put them in rows away from the actual D-Day, invasion site. So, or, just to misdirection, like, oh, all their tanks are over there. And they would go bomb a bunch of blow up tanks that were fake and leave the real tanks intact. It's a fascinating story, actually, Randy. And Scrub J93 says, I don't even believe, but when I am camping alone in the wilderness, I always remember the stories. Yeah, things get a little creepy in the woods, don't they, Scrub J93? And yeah, people asked also for a cabin update. I'll see if I can't. Oh, UFO John Doe with another kind and generous $5 super chat. Thank you for the kindness, generosity, and support. Much, much appreciated. We appreciate you helping the cause, and thank you. I'll add the Lonnie Zamora case to the list. Thank you for helping us to praise the cash, UFO John Doe.
Praise the cash, praise the cash.
Can you believe that I asked my son to help me, and his first thought was, you're going to pay me, Dad, right? We're training him right. He's praising the cash on it all on his own now. It's wonderful to see. So we'll take a few more comments and questions. Sounds like the Ramtha scam. No, bigger than that, trolly troll, way bigger, and much more famous people involved in this one than the Ramtha scam, right? UFO John Doe says, looking forward to the investigation series. So am I. But I got to tell you that when I start on one of these, I know I get a little discouraged because I know these, for those unaware, when we do these deep investigative pieces, it takes so much time and energy. And sometimes I get pissed off. Like the Murder in UFO Land series is a perfect example. I worked on that for like 3 months. Now, a lot of that was because I was getting a runaround from some people, and people were literally deceiving me or manipulating me during that investigation to tell the story their way. My fault. But I get discouraged sometimes with some of these big investigative stories because I'll spend months on it and then it gets less views than I get from like an off the cuff rant show where I did no preparation, didn't work on it for 10 minutes, just went live and ranted for 2 hours. So, but it's a strange game that we find ourselves in, Local says, what's the most convincing UFO case you've had? I don't know. That's difficult to answer because so many of them just fall apart over time. The Pascagoula case is one that I've always liked, and we're going to be having Philip Mantle here. Let me see if I can find it quickly. One second. Yeah, I was able to find it. So Philip Mantle was kind enough to gift me a book. I started reading it. Beyond a Reasonable Doubt, The Pascagoula Alien Abduction. This one is very convincing to me for several reasons, not the least of which was that these guys didn't know that they were being recorded in the police station at all times. And the police left them alone together, Local 556. And while they were alone together, they were talking about their alien abduction experience very convincingly. And they were both sounded incredibly afraid, upset, anxious. This one's hard to pick apart as a fake story. It really is. And I hate that that's the metric that I'm using, I guess, but you're asking the most convincing UFO case. This is probably one of them. And by the way, I'm going to get a little further into the book, either finish it or at least finish most of it. And then I'm going to have the author of this book, Philip Mantle, come here, and we're going to discuss this case in more extreme detail. But thanks for the question. Go back and watch Murder in UFO Land. It was great. Yeah, that was great work. I'm very proud of that. Even if it didn't get many views at the time, it's gotten a lot more since then because, some of the shows that we produce, they're just not interesting a year later or relevant 2 years later. But that story will always be relevant no matter when you find it. So I appreciate that, B. Baker. Thanks for saying that. Local 556 is interesting. I'll have to look into it. Yeah, and it's also very different. One of the reasons I like that case is because it's very different. There's no gray aliens. The aliens look so bizarre that to me, they seem to be more like genuinely what I would expect an alien to be. Not a well, they were bipedal, but not, no 5 fingers and 5 toes. And, they were alien to us. They were alien beings in the alien sense of the word. I always find it suspicious, Local 556, that the aliens that people encounter look so much like us: 5 fingers, 5 toes, 2 arms, 2 head, 2 legs, two arms, a head in the same place as us. Scrub J says, I have driven by the Ramtha compound many times. It's near Olympia, Washington. Yeah, she went full Q crazy, that one, didn't she? As if she wasn't crazy enough, right? The balloon tanks was the fake division that had General Patton in charge of it to make it even more real. And some of those things were created by the Jasper Maskelyne character that I talked about. What about the aerial school in Zimbabwe? Well, we covered that when we reviewed a film about that case. Just look that up in our archives if you want to take a look at that, which is a good time to remind you that one great way that you can help us. It's not always about the cash, although we love the cash and praising the cash here. Another great way that you can help us is to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos on your social media. And by the way, I see you people who retweet my tweets or share my Facebook posts. And by the way, you can follow me on Twitter at Stephen Cambion, or on Facebook. Just look up my name, Stephen Cambion. We see those people who are sharing my posts or posting links to different shows here. And we appreciate it because it does help expand our reach and find more audience members. So my thanks to all of you. But one of the other great ways you can help us is to watch one more. We've got a huge archive of previous live shows. And we appreciate all of you that check those out. It really does help. And apparently, according to a YouTube expert I know, it helps a lot because when YouTube sees that you came to a live show here, and then you came back to watch a previous live show, they turn the dials up on the recommends. They assume we must make good content because people see one and they come back for it. There's something with the algorithm that triggers. And we thank all of you who are watching one more. Now, I know you may have had enough of me for today, but maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, maybe this weekend, whenever, when you're, cleaning your house, working, going to school, whatever it is you're doing, driving somewhere. Listen to one more or watch one more. We have a huge archive of previous shows here that sit largely inactive. And by the way, today was also an experiment to see if this monetization issue, which is going to put me in a bad mood if it's already, let's see. No, this broadcast has so far not been demonetized. For those unaware, we've been having an issue where sometimes even before I'm on the screen, while the music is playing, they demonetize. Now, I have my own conspiratorial beliefs about why this is happening. I think there's a thumb on the scale of some media narratives that people are pushing. And if you go against the media narrative that the three-letter agencies want out there in the collective consciousness in the United States for some reason, you're penalized for it. We have seen this, especially with this Grush story. Every show that I have done critical of the Grush narrative was demonetized. Every single one, even if we didn't curse, even if we didn't, every one of them, and we thank Adam Mortar for kind and generous $2.99 Australian dollars. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. We appreciate you, and thank you for helping us praise. We're praising the cash pretty good tonight. Thank you, Adam Motor. Much appreciated. Very kind of you.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
You got to praise it. Absolutely. And Local 556, I saw, told me that I jinxed it. Yeah, I could, maybe. But this is why these Patreon memberships, look, our Patreon is $1 a month, and the YouTube channel membership is $5 a month. You get the same stuff, but on YouTube, you get like a channel member badge and some extra goodies, priority reply. I hate putting stuff behind a paywall, but those channel memberships and the Patreon make up for us getting, bent over. That's the only way to say it. We get bent over here. And by the way, I just want a level playing field. If somebody can make all the money they want on this or another platform with, largely, I think, overhyped, over-sensationalized, completely and totally disinformation, misinformation, no evidence, no information stories, I should be able to be critical of that and poke holes all through those less than credible stories and still be able to earn money, right? Everybody's time is valuable, and mine is no different. And the older you get, honestly, the more valuable you realize your time is. Remember when you were like, I don't know, a child, and you would just spend, inordinate amount of time doing things, I mean, I can remember like Nintendo and PlayStation and Sega Genesis time. Like, boy, I would love to have all that time back now. But at the time, it seemed like a good use. It seemed like a good use of my time at the time. But the older you get, the more valuable your time is. And if I'm here and we're not cursing, we're not being rude or disrespectful or nasty, and we're doing our best to entertain the audience, I don't understand these demonetization issues, right? Yeah, Local 556 is all you had to do is not think about it. I've been getting ads. You better be getting paid. Well, what happens, though, Rain Dimensions, is sometime after the stream ends, the algorithm keeps scrubbing the episode, and they find some reason. I don't know. And by the way, I did go to Team YouTube about this issue, and they told me, well, it could take up to 7 days to review because the last two shows we did before this one are both still demonetized. I submit it for a review. One of them is like, it's like from last week, and they still haven't completed the review. But Team YouTube on Twitter told me that it could take up to a week. So, let me see here. let me see. We have two. One of them is about the alien bodies in Mexico. That one's limited. We're waiting for a review. That was from September 14th. That's 5 days ago, which means by the time they turn the ad money back on, all the ads are finished. I don't think that's, well, I'm not going to say anymore. I don't want to anger the AI algorithm gods. And then, of course, our show from yesterday, which is about Dave Grush, not coincidentally, and the alien bodies, that was demonetized. This one is still on. And by the way, I will say that I went out of my way this evening to see, like, okay, stay calm. Don't yell and scream about anything. Don't get overly animated or upset. And we were scripted, have a professional presentation prepared just to see, like, is that okay? Because if that's okay, we'll try to do it that way, you know? But then again, come on, we have to be a little off the cuff and improvise here. I can't be so scripted, right? Or so regimented. We like to kick back and just have a little fun sometimes here. Apparently, maybe the AI algorithm gods don't like that. Jester says, I don't mind getting ads as long as Steven is getting paid. If you're seeing ads, I'm getting paid. The problem is, how long are they going to be there before somebody flips the switch again? We'll see, you know. And by the way, I just want to remind everybody that we'll be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But this week, I have sort of a special situation going on with some family stuff going on. So tomorrow night will be the last show for the week. I have multiple shows finished and prepared, but I haven't decided what I'm going to do tomorrow. I did promise all of you, and people have been asking for a while for me to do either a call-in show where we take callers one at a time or to do a panel show. So we may do that tomorrow. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did you want to see a panel show or a call-in show? I can't lie. I kind of prefer the call-in shows where they're one at a time, because sometimes these panel shows, and by the way, a panel show is probably going to be all chaotic, and no matter how much you ask people not to, they curse like crazy. And if you do that once, it affects your channel for a while. They hyper scrutinize, you know. So maybe a call-in show would be a better idea tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. It's got to be something else. There are plenty of yelling content creators that are monetized. It's so weird. Yeah, and by the way, somebody told me that the algorithm can detect when you're yelling and screaming, and they may hold that against you. I don't know. A call-in show would be cool, says Randy. I prefer the call-in shows. Yeah, call-ins. Tell me your story. You know what? That's a great idea. We're going to do a call-in show, and I'm just going to call it Tell Me a Story. Tell me your best story. Right? Everybody's got a great story. No matter who you are, you got at least one great story. I'd like to hear some of our audience's great stories. Take a poll. No, I think we're going to do the call-in one at a time. Yep, one at a time is better. There you go, B. Baker. All right, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. So what can I say, friends? We have done our due diligence. At least I think so. But we'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I promise you, it won't be long until there'll be some guests sitting here with me in our brand new set. I want to take a moment to recognize and thank our cash clown Xavier. For those unaware, that's my son. He's in second grade now, and he's very interested in all things that I do. He's interested in microphones. He's interested in keyboards and synthesizers. He's interested in computers and what he can do with them. He's interested in webcams. He's interested in doing a show of his own, and he's only in second grade. So to encourage him, and also, I got to be honest, just to spend more time with him. Sometimes I'm in here working and doing things, so I've been involving him, and we want to thank and recognize him. I got to find some money for him. He hit me up. For those just joining us or missed when I said it earlier, I had a few things to finish up to get this set ready for tonight's showtime. I asked him to help me, and he said, "Sure, Dad, I'll help you." And then he looked up at me and he said, "But you're going to pay me, right?" He's praising the cash. So thanks to Xavier, our little cash clown, he was able to help me get the few things. And by the way, this is a work in progress. I've just come to accept that. And, you know, I wanted everything to be perfect and a certain way before I debuted the set. And then time just keeps moving and I'm not pulling the trigger on it. So today I just decided we're going to pull the trigger on this set. We'll get to the live guests. We'll get to the extra cameras. And by the way, I still have to wire the multi-microphone setup for me and the guests. So it's a work in progress. And by the way, I want to thank each and every one of you because everything here was provided by you kind and generous benefactors, maybe with the possible exception of the furniture, because that was donated by some of my neighbors. I live in a very affluent area where people replace their furniture every few years, whether it needs to be thrown out and replaced or not. I don't understand people that do that, but this is the kind of place we live. People have too much money and too little sense. So the desk came from a neighbor. These chairs came from a neighbor. But we did go into till for some new cameras and new microphones and these backdrops, the new lighting. So we thank each and every one of you Patreon supporters, you YouTube channel members, you people throwing super chat, you Twitch subscribers, you PayPal pledgers. Oh, that reminds me, by the way, we want to make sure that we thank you kind and generous Pill.net gold pillars. That's what they call it on Pill.net. On Pill.net, people can send you gold pills. And so we're praising the cash over on Pill.net as well. And we thank each and every one of you. We appreciate all of you contributing. We throw it on the till when we need something. Hey, we needed a new set so we could do in-person interviews. We've got it, thanks to you. You guys all give me an attitude of gratitude. And by the way, we played the Pill.net bumper, but I forgot to tell you about them. They're our new distribution partner. It's a free speech platform, which I realize, you know, some people don't like that. But one of the costs of free speech is that you have to be willing to let people say things you disagree with, even things that you really, really strongly, vehemently disagree with. That's the cost of free speech. So over there, there's no censorship. It's www.pill.net. There's no censorship. And by the way, there's increasing censorship around these strange and esoteric topics. A lot of channels got demonetized or thrown off of major platforms. You won't see that on Pill.net. It's kind of a combination of many different things. I see elements of MySpace in it. There's RSS feeds. That's a little old school, but it's a lot like Facebook and Twitter merged, along with the capabilities of YouTube for hosting video files and live streams. And by the way, if you're a content creator, the live stream setup there is easier than any other alt platform I tried. It's easier than Rumble. It's easier than Odyssey. It's easier than DLive and a bunch of others by far. I think it's easier than Rockfin. I highly recommend it. And if you do sign up, just go to www.pill.net and it'll ask you who referred you. Put my name. And by the way, I don't get a commission for every one of you that go over there. I just like them to know, since they really rolled out the red carpet for me, gave me unlimited space and put me in the promo section so we get more viewers and views over there. They've really been helpful to me, and we want to return the favor by sending them new users. That's their big drive right now, is to increase their usership. They want to get more and more new members over there. So go over to pill.net, check it out. And if you do follow me over there, we appreciate all of you. And if you're a content creator, by the way, you're monetized over there from the jump. As soon as they flip the switch to make you a content creator, you can accept donations, subscriptions. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I agree with you. Bottled Water says, it will be interesting to see what Twitter can do for content creators. But did you know Bottle Creator or monetize you if you're a subscriber? So you got to give Elon the $8 a month or they won't let you. I'm considering doing it because I'm hopeful that I can make $8 a month on Twitter. Who knows though? I don't know how that stuff works, right? Yeah, Mark D. Truthseeker inviting people to the Discord, saying definitely. The Truthseekers Discord, and VLR78 is here and says, I love the historic shows. Great. Thanks, Stephen. Well, you're welcome. And we appreciate that people appreciate what we're doing here. Mark D. Truthseekers US says Stephen responds to everyone most of the time on Discord. Yeah. If you really want to get a hold of me, a great thing to do is to join our Discord, because I'm in there every day. I reply to everybody that messages me. Sometimes people say they email me and I just don't get it. I don't know why. It's one of the grand mysteries of the universe. I check my spam folder. No, I didn't get your message. And then people get pissed at me. I think people get the email wrong. They add an extra S in there because it's Truthseeker, one Truthseeker, and then the word show, one word. But people put an extra S in there, and then I should register that one too. We'll work on that. But the best way to get a hold of me really is the Discord or Twitter. And by the way, I'm a pretty public person. My Twitter DMs are open. My Facebook private messages are open. And I appreciate everybody sending me messages. Strange Recon Radio is here. It says salute. Yeah, good to see. Chuck Bam says interview the empty chair. It didn't work so well for Clint Eastwood when he did that. I think I'm going to pass on that. But we're going to be getting some in-person guests. That's the whole reason to build this set. I don't know if any of you have noticed it, but podcasts and shows that everybody's in the same room, not virtual guests, but real all the biggest podcasts in the world do it that way. Joe Rogan could do Skype or Zoom. I think he's only done that once in his whole show's history, and it's because it was a scientist he really wanted to talk to that couldn't make the journey no matter what. So I'm not going to be making people fly here. We're going to use the in-person studio here for when people are local to me and don't mind the drive. And by the way, if you're an in-person guest, we're going to have some swag for you, take you out to dinner, give you the VIP treatment. Yeah. So we hope to start that soon. So what can I say, friends? We have done our due diligence, and I'm glad that we finally pulled the trigger. I've been procrastinating on getting going with this set, but I'm glad that we got it out of the way. And now the set's debuted. I got to tell you, though, I am feeling a little out of sorts because it's too new, but I'll adjust, and I hope you will too. We're going to get the other cameras set up and the other microphones probably tomorrow, so we'll be good to go for the in-person guests. I hear Art Levine was on Lou Review's show tonight. He was one of the people that I wanted to ask because he's not too far from me. I'll probably still ask him, but go check that out. So we've done our due diligence, and what can I say? Tomorrow's show is 9 p.m. Eastern time. I think we've got a plan for that. It's 9:20 tomorrow. Already September's almost over already. Can you believe it? That's a problem for me. Yeah, and we'll be back tomorrow night at 9:20. 2023. We'll be back at 9 p.m. Oh, let me just write tomorrow night. And so we'll be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern. And I hope that you will all be here with me. And one of the other things I would ask is if you enjoy our show, tell a few friends about it. Bring them with you to the live chat. It's a good place to hang out with like-minded weirdos. And by the way, I'm one of those weirdos. So thanks to the rest of you weirdos for being here. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos on your social media. It really does help. Our next show will be tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So, friends, that's all we got for you. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.